New tonight, sources familiar with current Western intelligence telling CNN Russia is forcing hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians from their homes and then putting them through these so-called filtration camps, releasing many to far-flung parts of Russia after detainment. The scale of Russia's forced removal efforts far greater than what U.S. officials have publicly disclosed. This supermarket in Mariupol now appearing to be used as a processing center by the Russian military. And sources are telling CNN tonight the operation is meant to solidify Russian control over occupied areas. Katie Bo-Lillis is out front in Washington. Katie Bo, eyewitnesses have told CNN about these beatings and a lack of medical care in these camps. What else do you know about the living conditions?
Pam, it's important to understand that these camps are run by Russian intelligence. They're run by the FSB. So this is for Russia, this is about filtering out politically undesirable Ukrainians. It's about filtering out patriots, about filtering out nationalists, people with connection to the Ukrainian military, for example. So as you rightly mentioned, we've heard harrowing reports from both eyewitnesses and our sources of brutal, even violent interrogations, even rising up to the level of torture. But even beyond that, the conditions at these camps, according to our sources, are pretty appalling. These camps are in pre-existing facilities like schools, like supermarkets that are not meant to house people for long periods of time. And yet we understand from our sources and again from eyewitnesses that some people are held here as long as a month with no sign of when they might be released. The average, according to our sources, is about 3 weeks. And even if you survive this process, even if you manage to make it and be shipped into Russia, from there, what's happening is many of these Ukrainians are being relocated in cities and towns all over the country of Russia in economically depressed areas and essentially left there and said, hey, you live here now, you got to make it.
So what is happening then once they are sent there into Russia?
Yeah, so it's a really mixed bag of experiences, right? Some Ukrainians are offered a little bit of support. They might get a little bit of cash, maybe the equivalent of like $150 in rubles, maybe a Russian SIM card, maybe even housing and a place to live. Some of them are quite literally left in towns, potentially thousands of miles away from their home with no support whatsoever and told to get a job and survive. And we know from our sources that at least some of these Ukrainians have been sent as far as Sakhalin Island, which is this little residential community on just this spit of ground, quite literally in the Pacific. Pam, this is 10,000 miles from the Ukrainian border. And of course, the question for these people is, if you have no resources, how are you supposed to get home? How are you supposed to be able to leave Russia? We do know from our sources that some Ukrainians have been able to make it across the border into Belarus, into Estonia. But for some of these other Ukrainians, the question is, what now?
All right, they have already been through so much. Katie Bo-Lillis, thank you.